Hello and welcome to the mains PYQ discussion by New IAS. This is a question from the 2020 mains. It's about architecture in general, but it has something embedded in it. Look at the question. Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art in India. Now, the core of this question is monuments and their art. But there is an analytical aspect to this question, which is how philosophy and tradition is embedded in the monuments and their art in India. So basically, it's about architecture, but the philosophy and tradition in the architecture. So it has a factual aspect and an analytical aspect behind this question. So we will start this question by talking about the functional and aesthetic purposes of a monument. For example, take the case of Taj Mahal. The functional purpose of Taj Mahal is to serve as the monument of Mumtaz Mahal. Mumtaz Mahal's tomb was present there. Later, Shah Jahan was also buried inside. But it has an aesthetic purpose as well. It's so pleasing to the eyes. Second, Indian philosophy is embedded in its art and architecture. You take any architecture in India, the philosophy is embedded in it. All these are examples of that embedded factor. We have 6 points here. We have 7 points here in fact. 7 points are analytical as well as factual. What is given in red here is the factual side of it. This will act as value additions in your answer. The first point given, so we have followed a chronological approach here. The first, and it's a mixture of both philosophy and tradition. Not just philosophy, but also tradition as well. Now the first factor is about Buddhism. Now Buddhism has played a role in shaping the stupas. Now stupa is something that acts as a burial mound. Now this is something that predates Buddhism. You can see the ancient forms of stupas in the Vedic times itself. But when Buddhism came into the picture, the philosophy started evolving it. For example, take the figure of a stupa. This stupa has something called Harmiga here. It has something called a Chhatri on top with 3 tenants. It represents Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. The Harmiga represents the heavenly abode. Then you have the Torina, which has narrative reliefs related to Jataka stories. So every part of a stupa has a meaning, and it is part of the Buddhist philosophy. So that's how architecture and philosophy gets embedded in India. That's the first point. Second is with respect to temples. So every temple you take in India, it is built as per the Vastu Shastra. So Vastu Shastra is a philosophy where you have a person called the Vastu Purusha. It's a mythical figure. It is conceived that Vastu Purusha is lying down in the ground, and we are constructing architecture on top of the Vastu Purusha. So everything, including the eyes, ears, head, tail, everything of the Vastu Purusha has to be taken into consideration while you construct a temple. And every temple in India follows the Vastu Shastra. There again, the philosophy gets mixed with architecture. Now you come to the Indo-Islamic architecture. If you have observed the Taj Mahal, for example, I'll just depict it for you. If you observe the Taj Mahal is located in the center of a square garden. Taj Mahal can be traced here. This garden is dissected into 4 equal parts. And these center dissections has water flowing through them. Running water. And in all 4 the sides you have garden. It is the same architecture that is followed in Humayun's tomb, and be it any Mughal architecture, you can see the same. You go to Red Fort, what you will see is garden, then a building, garden, building, the same pattern. This pattern is called the Charbagh style. Charbagh is the heavenly garden described in Quran as well as in Bible. It's the Eden garden, the first garden of Adam and Eve. So that style, which is the square proportional bisection and running water, that is the feature that is invoked here as well. So it is the philosophy, the Islamic philosophy, that is getting embedded in the architecture, the Charbagh style. Now if we move to the regional traditions, here tradition is coming in after philosophy. You take the Nagara, the Dravida, the Vesara, the local tradition is getting inculcated in the architecture. Every style. Vesara is part of the Hoysala, the modern day Karnataka region. Dravida is peaking in Kanchipuram as well as Mahabalipuram. Nagara you can see in Gupta style as well as the Panchayatana style in central India. So all regional traditions are getting embedded in architecture. Now sculptures. Sculptures in temples are based on narratives and philosophy. Take the case of the Odisha temples. Odisha temple is heavily carved. You won't see an inch of space there. And these carvings are based on narratives. Narratives means stories and philosophy. You take the Khajuraho temple. It has exotic figures, erotic figures. And these figures are part of the narrative style and the philosophy that represents that figures. Then this architecture also represents symbolism. Take the Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar represents victory. It's a victory tower. It represents the victory of Qutbuddin Aibak. So symbolism is also part of the architecture. Take the case of Taj Mahal again. Why Taj Mahal was built with white marble and Red Fort was built with red sandstone. Both were built by Shah Jahan only. Because Taj Mahal represents love and Red Fort represents valor, hence the color. Finally, the functional roles. Take the case of Viharas. Vihara is an architectural style, but it acted as a shelter for the Sanghas. So Buddhist monks used to travel all year round. And during the monsoon, they took shelter. And that was in Viharas. So it had a functional role as well. So on a whole, the architecture represents philosophy, tradition, and functional role. Along with that, it served their aesthetic purpose as well. So 7 points, 7 analytical points with proper factual backing will complete this answer. We'll conclude this by talking about inscriptions, manuscripts, and coins. All these are sources of history. Inscriptions, be it inscriptions, manuscripts, or coins. Just like that, architecture is also a source of history which reflects its age. This question is also about architecture reflecting philosophy or tradition. We'll connect it with history in general and conclude the answer. That's it. Thank you for listening.